play, and that means it's time for the big Friday pod where we cover all our favorite plays from Sunday's main slate of games for NFL Week 3. And we got the OG duo here to cover it all. Today's podcast, as always, is presented by Props.Cash. We've teamed up with Props.Cash once again this season because, like I always say, we 100% could not do what we do without Props.Cash. So if you think you're ready to level up your prop betting game, use code PTM at sign up to get 25% off your first month. Also, shout out to the PTM Discord where you can get all your picks, all our picks, and join us today using the same PTM discount code for 25% off. Look who's in the house. Welcome back, Dave. How are you feeling this morning?
Feeling wonderful. I was just creating a promo code for our Discord as we speak. I just felt like 25% off was not generous enough
All
for
right,
a Friday.
Let's go.
All right, so I just created code POD. So you go to Dub Club, sign up with code POD at the PTM Discord, and you get 50% off your first month. We'll keep that live for the duration of this podcast. So don't wait.
Hot off the presses.
Hot off the press. Just like that. So dynamic.
I love it. I love
All right,
that.
POD.
Like a podcast. Or
No, it had nothing to do with that.
pick of the day. Pod.
POD.
Pick of day.
Pick of day. All right.
What's up, man?
I'm good, man. I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you that you finally got an NFL team that you can actually tell people about.
Thank you.
Aaron Rodgers.
Let's not get too ahead of ourselves, but yeah, last night was nice. What do you have to say? What are your comments?
I mean, I didn't watch the whole game because it was really kind of over after, at halftime. To be honest with you, Jets once they got an 11-point lead, it was pretty much over. But I'm impressed. Aaron Rodgers, like you said a couple weeks ago, looks legit. He actually looked a lot sharper yesterday than he had in the previous two games. And they got a lot of weapons. The Jets have a lot of weapons, right? Wilson was not, I know he grabbed a touchdown, but he was kind of off yesterday, and everybody else was just hauling in catches. So, and Breece Hall is, he's just amazing. So,
Yeah.
If you're a Jets fan, this won't last long. So just enjoy this moment because things are trending up. That eventually they will crash back down. But while they're trending up, enjoy this moment.
These moments are few and fleeting, and you have to take advantage of them when you can. That is absolutely true. Unlike being a Chiefs fan who's been to 6 straight AFC Championship games.
We're bored with success, but we'll take it. All right. Now, you can never win too much. I was telling Tom, actually, somebody posted Patrick Mahomes' top 30 plays of his career on X. I got to find it and send it to you, Tom. It's maybe 5-10 minutes long. It's some of the best time I've spent on the internet in a long time. It's just play after play. This man just makes great plays and stuff like you don't see anybody else do. We'll be talking about him in a minute. I can't wait to get to the Chiefs game.
Yeah, Sunday night, the Sunday night special.
All right, so let's dive in. I think we identified 8 games this week, so about half the slate. Kind of targeting some of the higher scoring games or like really good matchups for running or passing or receiving. But let's start with what is one of the higher scoring games of the Sunday slate. Let's go with Philly at New Orleans. Philly is 1-1 on this season after a heartbreaking defeat last week, and New Orleans is 2-0. Surprisingly, they looked like they were going to be trash this year, and they're actually playing pretty well. So New Orleans is actually favored in this game, which is kind of crazy. Total in this game is 49.5. What do you like in this one?
2 weeks ago, they would not have been favored in this.
They would have been 7-point underdogs at home.
Crazy.
But AJ Brown being out is a big factor, and the Eagles' defense is also a big factor.
And what they've done the last 2 weeks. I mean, putting up 40 plus points now in two straight weeks.
Yeah, against a legitimate who they play, the Cowboys last week.
Yeah, the Cowboys.
I mean, that's a legitimate win right there.
For sure.
All right, so what do you like here?
All right. So we have a nice matchup. I like the with New Orleans being favored, playing at home. It's typically a spot you like to look at running backs. And we actually have a good matchup here for running backs against the Eagles. They've allowed the most rush yards per attempt, 6.5 rush yards per attempt. The fourth most rush yards overall, averaging 140 rush yards per game from the running back position. And the second most rushes of 10 plus yards. So some explosive, there's 10 overall. So they're allowing some explosive plays out of the backfield. So I'm liking Kamara here, over 64.5. Maybe it's ticked up. Yeah, it looks like it's ticking up.
Mm-hmm.
Just click over and look at the what some of the running backs have done against Philly. You see a lot of green checks there. Look at that. Bijan. Yeah, look, I'm 97. Tyler Algier in the same game, 53. Then you had Jacobs, 84. Big numbers. And even going back to last season as well. So I like him on his straight line, given the matchup, given the home favorite. And then I think I'm gonna call out some nice builder legs. It seems to be a popular thing people like to do. So we're gonna give out some nice legs here. I think 50 plus rushing yards. You can get that at -230, which is a great leg for a 3-4 leg builder. Kamara's done this in 16 of his last 20 games at home, averaging 66.5 rushing yards in those home. Yeah, look at that. So really nice at 50 yards if you want to put that as a piece to a builder.
Yeah. I also wrote down Kamara. In addition to the yards per carry against the Eagles are giving up the fourth highest total yards, rush yards to running backs. Mm-hmm. So it's volume and it's efficiency. It's a really good combination for a guy who's looking like the Alvin Kamara from
2018.
From multiple years ago.
Yes.
I would play him all the way up to 60 yards if you want to put him in a builder. I think that's also pretty nice. I mean, obviously your hit rates go down from 80% to what do we got? To closer to like 55%. So that's obviously a big drop off. But so far this season, he's been crushing that 83 and 115. Yeah. So I like
Go ahead.
I like the straight up line of 65.5. 64.5 even better if you can get that still, but 60 plus is nice.
I like the 50 plus. Obviously the hit rate is nice, and at -230 you could do a 2-leg builder and you find another piece in the -200s, you're at even money, right? So I think that's nice. And I got a couple other plays from this game. So if you
if you're thinking about builders, if you're starting to get into those, the other way to think about it, if Kamara is 65.5, 60 plus rush yards will probably put you at like -170, -180, somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. I also like doing those sometimes. It's basically like you're going to take -170 for Kamara. You're going to tack on something with a super high hit rate, like a -500 play on top of it, and hopefully get that to closer to +100. So it's basically like you're playing Kamara, hedging him down a little bit, mm-hmm. and then just throwing something with a really high probability on top of it. I've been doing that a bit lately as well. Just alternative strategies. But I think
for sure
50 plus is safe. 60 is nice as well. 65.5 is good too. Who else?
All right. Another matchup we could look at here is on the receiving side against Philly. They've allowed the third most receiving yards, seventh most air yards to wide receivers. I got a new metric I'm monitoring this year in catchable targets. So factoring out, that kind of factors in what the defense can do. If it's a uncatchable target, that wasn't really, nothing to do with the defense there really. So fourth most yards per catchable target, and the fifth most yards per reception so far this year. So I like Shaheed. This guy's been. No, we're not going to Olave. We're going.
Shaheed. I thought you were going to go Olave.
Nah. Look at that. I mean, he's just been. I was watching him last week. I mean, this guy. He's a big offensive weapon. This line's also ticking up. I got a 48.5, I don't know, yesterday or the day before. So a little upward movement there. I just think, look at his, his targets. He's just been, what did he have? Like 5 and 4 targets. He just seems to be factoring in. I like the giving him a bunch of air yards. He's like a deep threat. I was just super impressed watching him last week, and he's really I don't know. He's got a nice connection with Carr. I think you probably can't go wrong with either of these two guys, in Olave and Shaheed. But I'm going. She was my guy when I was watching the games last week. He was one of the notes I wrote down to myself to revisit this week, and in a good matchup, he's the guy I'm going to.
Yeah. I started with Shaheed, thought that was a great option. I kind of went Olave just because, he's the primary target. He got 6 targets. Shaheed hasn't topped more than 5 yet this season. But in terms of consistency, Shaheed's been more consistent in the first 2 games. So
yeah,
I don't know. And then you also have Kamara too, who's excellent in the passing game as well, right?
Yeah.
So I think any of these guys are great options for this game. But yeah, Olave or Shaheed, either one. They're both probably cash because, like we said, the Eagles are giving up a ton of yards.
Yeah.
And
and so are the Saints. They've against opposing wide receivers. We'll lead right into this. They've actually allowed the most air yards in the league to opposing wide receivers. The 3rd most targets. 7th most yards overall, 4th most yards after contact. So that speaks to the defense's ability to be able to bring guys down. So I think we got to go back to Devonta, right? AJ Brown out again. He's averaged 11 targets over his last 2 games without AJ Brown, averaging 7.5 receptions. So I think his where's his yardage line at?
100% snaps.
Yeah.
He's on the field the whole game.
72
his line, 70. It was 71.5, I think. Now it's 72.5. As high as 75.5 on Fanatics. So the trend is going to keep moving up on this guy. This guy's just a beast, man.
Look at him with 6 targets. So I think if you wanted to do a very conservative builder leg, you could get him at 5 receptions for minus 300. You put that with that him and Kamara, you could probably get close to even money between those two. He's done this. He's had 5 receptions in 25 of his last 26 games when he's had 6+ targets. Remember, I said he's averaging 11 targets his last 2 games without AJ Brown. So just looking at games when he's had 6 targets, 5 receptions. Yeah,
that's a beautiful thing.
That is a beautiful chart.
Yeah, we put out a play in the Discord earlier. The Shabuzi builder, we called it. We had 4 players, and I'll just tease that Devonta Smith getting 5 receptions was one of them. So this is why. This is a reason why. Also the absence of AJ Brown.
Yeah.
I think it's a great play. I think he's one of the most impressive receivers in the league. He might be the best receiver on the Eagles. I'm going to throw that statement out there.
Yeah, could be.
Could be.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else in this game?
No, that's it.
All right. Let's stay in the 1:00 games. Let's move to a lower scoring game. Denver and Tampa Bay. Denver's 0-2 on the season. Tampa Bay's 2-0. Tampa Bay is minus 6.5 at home. Total is 40.5. So I want to know. I didn't really find a whole lot in this game. I got 1 play, but I'm curious what you got.
So this a play that's always near and dear to my heart. Love looking at running back receptions or receiving yards. Running backs against Tampa Bay. The most targets, most receptions, most yards after catch. Second most yards per target. Just this is a place to look here for running backs. So Javonte Williams over 17.5 receiving yards. Was minus 115 on DK. It's gone down. Oh wait, no. Whoa, we're all over the place there. From 21.5 to 13.5.
Yeah, there must have been some news that came out because that's a dramatic drop. I mean, Prize Picks is 13.5, but FanDuel is probably
14.5.
14.5 for minus 113. I mean, that's a pretty nice line. I like that.
Yeah. Look at him on the road. He seems to do really well. Where we at? I have my notes here. Am I? Oh, sorry. With 3+ targets. 3+ targets.
Yeah.
There we go. That's nice. That's nice there. You can also a nice leg to a builder is you can get him at 2+ receptions for minus 400. He's done that in 26 of his last 27 games when he's had 3 targets. So
let's just stop analyzing this. Jahmyr Gibbs 22 receiving yards, David Montgomery 35, Brian Robinson 49, and Austin Eckler 52. So you got 4 running backs that they've faced so far have all gone over by a good margin. This is a great play.
Yeah.
Lock this in. Just make sure we're not missing something on the news as to why this is dropping, but we could just be catching a really good opportunity. Love Javonte.
Yeah, I mean they have the other running back too, Jaleel McLaughlin. So I don't know, probably
he's not quite as. That's crazy. He actually had 5 targets and no, what do you like, 1 yard?
Wow,
that's nuts. 5 receptions for 1 yard. Where's he going?
Nowhere.
Nowhere. I hope one of those was like a loss of like 10 yards or something, because that doesn't even make sense. I got to dig into that. That might be more impressive than Otani.
Yeah.
Otani last night with his 50-50. Okay.
That's crazy.
Anything else in this game?
Yeah, just real quick. So I went through, so talking about these catchable targets, I went through and looked to find all the best matchups, looking at, the teams that are throwing the most, have the most catchable targets thrown against teams who have allowed the most catchable targets, right? So you had 6 teams with wide receiver, to target wide receivers for in that matchup. That was Detroit, Houston, Dallas, Philly, and Chicago, and Denver. Denver was the 6th one on that list. So I wanted to find a receiver there who we could target as a builder leg for receptions, and Josh Reynolds is fitting the bill. 3+ receptions, minus 184. So an awesome leg to a builder. Look at his targets the last 2 games, his first 2 games in Denver, 5 and 4 receptions.
8 and 5 targets. Yeah.
8 and 5 targets. He's cleared this. This is going back to, with the Rams last year, but right. Rams, or was he on Detroit? I forget.
I'll look it up.
Yeah. 17 of his last 19 games with 5+ targets. He's had 5, right, in both 5 at a minimum in both of his first 2 games with Denver. So he seems to be a target that they like to go to. So at minus 184 for 3+ receptions, or minus 180 there. That's just straight line.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice piece.
This kind of felt like a trap. I stared at this play like probably for 5 minutes. it was just popping out on the sheet, on the model that we have, as like a great play. And I was just like, why is this line 2.5? Why is it not 3.5? But the answer is it's about to be 3.5, right? It's minus 180 for 2.5 receptions. So it's moving towards 3.5 plus money. Josh Reynolds was on Detroit for the last 4 seasons. I think he was on Tennessee a year before that, and then the Rams to start his career.
Gotcha. Oh, so I said Rams in Detroit. There we go.
No. Okay. Can we talk about Baker Mayfield?
Oh, yeah.
Can we just talk about this man? The most underappreciated running quarterback in the league. If Tim was on the show, he would be well in support of this one. But Baker Mayfield for 9.5 rushing yards just seems like a good spot. Denver, let's see what Denver has given up to opposing quarterbacks. 27 rushing yards to Justin Fields, 30 rushing yards to Geno Smith. That's all this year. And then if you go back to last year, there were quite a few games where they just gave up 20+ rushing yards to opposing Quarterbacks, we only need 10, and Baker so far this year has put up 21 and 34. Lots of attempts. 3 attempts, 5 attempts. I don't see why he doesn't get another 10 rushing yards in this game.
I love it. I'll show you my notes. I put red zone on and I take notes during the game. Baker Mayfield rushing was one of my notes from last week. Just watching the game. So yeah, I love that.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I love these little 10-yarders because they can just pick that up on one play.
Yeah.
Hopefully he picks up like 12, 13 because they're probably going to win this game and we'll probably get a few kneel downs at the end.
Yeah.
So that could be part of the risk that you're taking here. But if he gets 20 plus, we got plenty of buffer. So I like it.
Yes, sir. Me too.
All right, keep moving.
Let's do it.
Houston, Minnesota. Minnesota is getting 2 points at home. Both teams are 2-0. One is expected. One is a surprise. Tom's in love with Sam Darnold again. Total in this game is 46.5.
Just can't quit him, man.
But the real story here is Diggs returning to Minnesota.
Yes.
I actually, they said that on ESPN or something. I actually forgot he was on Minnesota. I just think of him as a Bill.
Yeah.
So
it was him with him and Adam Thielen those days in
Adam Thielen,
Minnesota. Yeah.
Randy Moss.
Yeah, I was thinking of those
a little earlier. What do you like here?
All right. So speaking of quarterbacks rushing, this is another great spot. So quarterbacks against Houston, Houston's allowed the third most rush yards per attempt, the third most rush yards overall. Sam Darnold's line is
12.5,
12.5, 13.5, 12.5, depending where you're looking. His rush attempt line is 3.5. So if we put his attempts to 3 rush attempts, we slide that over to 3 and look at all.
You want to look at his rush yards with 3 plus attempts?
Yes, sir.
Over what? The last 10 games?
Yeah.
All.
Yeah. 10
You want those Jets? You want those Jets days in there?
No, you don't even go to Jets. That's when he was with Carolina. It doesn't go back that far. Surprisingly, it's been that long since he's
good point. It's been a couple seasons.
Yeah. So 10 of his last 13 games with 3 plus attempts, averaging almost 25 rushing yards. He got off to a great start in specifically rushing back with Carolina. His first few games, that's those first, that 35, 48, 66. When he was starting for the Panthers. So I think this is really nice. Houston's been susceptible to the quarterbacks running. And I just also want to note, if you just click on touchdown, anytime touchdown, just wanted to point out what he did early on in his career in Carolina. Look at that. 5 touchdowns in his first 4 games, rushing touchdowns. I think this could be a sneaky spot. It was like plus 450, plus 550 Caesars, plus 500 DraftKings. So I think this could be a sneaky little spot for Darnold to run one in.
Okay. I like that.
You're not, yeah, do you?
You didn't sense enthusiasm?
No, I didn't see any enthusiasm there.
You had me on the rushing yards. You lost me a little on the touchdown.
I mean, we're talking about a plus 500.
No, yeah, it's just a
little. Yeah,
I'm just thinking Aaron Jones might get the ball over him, but you never know. Aaron Jones rushes it, gets to the 1 yard line. Darnold sneaks it in. It's possible.
Yeah, it is.
You think they play it more cautiously since they're like already on their QB2 for the season? Or they're just willing to sacrifice Sam and go to.
Yeah, I don't think they're worried too much about though they are off to a good start. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think I did hear Aaron Jones is a little banged up as he always seems to be. So who knows?
All right. Sam Darnold is QB1 and RB1 as well for Minnesota this week. All right. Anybody else in this game? Any receivers? Both these teams give up decent yards in the receiving game. What do you think?
Yeah, so I like a bunch of when I called out the wide receiver teams to target wide receivers for great matchups. Houston was one of them. So I think you have a ton of great builder legs in this game from the Houston side. Speaking of Stephon Diggs, I think either 3 or 4 receptions. These are reception builders that we've been enjoying.
Yeah.
3+ receptions, -550. I mean, that's amazing. 4+, you're there right now. That's -225. Awesome leg to a builder.
I think that's safe. He's not really getting yards this year, but he's getting the catches, right?
Yeah.
Hasn't topped more than 37 yards, but he's had 4+ receptions in both games. So I think that's good.
Yeah. I think the other 2 guys in the receiving room there are also good. Tank Dell at 3 receptions, I think, is nice. That's -300 on FanDuel. You see he's pretty good at 3 receptions as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then Nico Collins 4+, -380 is another.
It's such disrespect to talk about Nico Collins last in that conversation. He is maybe he's due for some regression, but what does this guy do? Look at his last 6 games.
It's awesome,
right? He's incredible, man. I think his straight up line looks like it's up to 75.5. Oh no, you can still get it for 72.5 or 70.5 on Caesars. I think those are phenomenal value. I think this dude. I think he and, not to get ahead, but he and Jefferson are both in store for 100+ yards in this game. So that could be a nice little pair.
Yeah, I like that.
All right. Anybody else?
I think, I don't know if Joe Mixon's playing or not. It is a nice spot for running back receptions against Minnesota.
There were no lines out.
There's no line, so just have a question mark next to him. But if he does play, or whoever the running back ends up being for Houston in this game, could be a nice spot.
That's a good look. I would guess he's going to be out. I mean, there's really no need for them to press this one. Justin Jefferson, I think, is in a good spot. His targets are I would say lower than where they were last year with that, potpourri of quarterbacks they had running through Minnesota. But 6 targets in the first game of the season, 7 in the second game. I would throw out the first game. That was such a blowout against the Giants. Like, they just stopped throwing the ball. 7 is probably the bottom of what he'll see in terms of targets, and decent efficiency, especially for a long ball threat. He's hauled in 4 receptions. So if you want to, his line is only 5.5. So if you want to put Justin Jefferson for 4 receptions as well, and pair that with Diggs for 4, that'll probably get you pretty close to where you need to be. But I think Justin Jefferson's going to have a monster game. I think he's going to put up 100+ in this one. So
this is going to be a very fun game. Looking forward to this one.
He's going to be Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Green Bay and Tennessee. Green Bay's 1-1. Tennessee is 0-2. I'm not sure why you chose this game, Tom. Tennessee is -3. The total is 37.5. Like, can we spend 30 seconds on this game?
That's all it's going to take.
Go ahead.
It's going to take. I like the spot for Tony Pollard too much to skip over. Green Bay's allowed the most yards before contact at 4.2. Just for reference, the next team in line there at number 2 is the Giants at 3. So a whole over a yard more before contact. That's always a metric I like to look at for running backs. It's like how many yards they're gaining before they're even getting touched by the opposing defense, giving them a nice head start there. Green Bay's allowed the 3rd most rush yards per attempt. They have the 3rd worst run stop win rate. So Tony Pollard over, what is his line at? It was 59.5. It's creeping up a little bit.
60.5 on DraftKings, but 63.5 on FanDuel. So I would lock in that 60.5.
Definitely. This was 59.5 yesterday. I just look at the first 2 games of the season against Green Bay. Jonathan Taylor, 103 on a line of 78.5. Saquon Barkley, 109 on a line of 65.5. So I love Pollard in this spot. I think him for you do Pollard for 40+ rushing yards or 50+ rushing yards is also great builder legs, but I love his straight line at 60.
I think I like combining two things. I like Pollard for 50 and Kamara for 50, putting those two together. I like the symmetry of the 50-50, and those guys are both in great positions to crush. So if you want to go back a few games and play those two together, that's another way to do this.
Love that.
All right, last 1 o'clock game that we're covering, we got the Chargers and the Steelers. Both teams are also 2-0. Steelers are -1.5 at home. Total is also low in this game, 35.5, because there'll probably be a lot of running in this game. So hopefully you got something cooking for Najee. Do you got anything for Najee?
I don't have anything for
really?
Najee.
All right.
I don't. Mine are on the Chargers side. So this is more of a narrative play than it is of a just like we like to go off the analytics and the matchups. So you have the two running backs for the Chargers, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, both came from the Ravens, so they're super familiar with the Steelers, playing in the same division as them for the past few years. Not only that, but now you have the new head coach in LA, Jim Harbaugh. He probably got some insight into the Steelers from his brother, John, who is the longtime coach of the Ravens, who is in his best interest to see the Steelers lose, right? So he's going to give his brother some edge in this spot. You know that Jim Harbaugh loves to run the ball. And just look at Dobbins has just been crushing this season so far, but both of them have actually crushed against the Steelers in general. Just look at what they've done.
Wow.
And Edwards as well. The two of these guys,
15 plus rush attempts in both games for Dobbins.
Dude, last week they ran the ball a combined 35 times for 190 yards last week.
Yeah, I can't believe his attempts is only 12.5. I guess because he's sharing with Edwards at 11. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So
that's crazy.
I think their straight lines are both good in this spot. If you wanted to put them, you can do Dobbins at 40 yards and Edwards at 25 yards, and you get plus 105. That seems like a no-brainer. I think you can even scooch them both up to 60 and 40. Dobbins at 60, Edwards at 40. And now you're at plus 350. I think they're going to run the ball in this game. You see the low score. There's going to be this is just going to be a ground and pound sort of game. Herbert's banged up a bit, right? I think they're going to lean on the running game here. If you look at what Atlanta did as a comp against the Steelers in that first game, Bijan ran for 68 yards on 18 attempts, and Tyler Algier ran for 21 yards. So didn't get to that 25 that I was talking about for Edwards, but that he only had 3 rush attempts in that game. So 21 yards on 3 rush attempts, pretty good. So I think you see them running the ball more. You can see their attempt lines. Would you say 12.5 and 10.5?
Yeah.
So yeah, I like the spot for both of them here.
Yeah, I think, like you said, I think you start with the information that the books are providing you, which is A, it's going to be a close game, 1.5 point spread. B, it's going to be a low scoring game, 35.5 points. That implies that the clock is going to be moving, right? Yep. So they're basically telling you that both teams are going to rush a lot in this game. So I think those are great plays on the Chargers side. Just to complete the thought, I think Najee Harris is also in a great spot, 53.5 rushing yards. There aren't any standout performances yet. I guess Chuba Hubbard put up 64 last week against the Chargers in the non-competitive game. But I think even more than the rushing yards, I really like Najee's rushing attempts. This line opened up at 13.5 and it's already up to 14.5. So I would grab it there before it goes up to 15.5. But if you look, we kind of thought we were going to get this split back scenario with Warren getting 10 and maybe Najee getting 12, kind of like we have on the Chargers side.
Yeah.
But Warren so far had 2 carries in the first game, 9 in the second. Najee has had 20 and 17. So I think Najee 14.5 rush attempts is the way to go on the Pittsburgh side. And then the plays that you put out for the running backs on the Chargers are really nice too.
Yes, sir. I like that. Did you have anything else?
For this game?
Yeah.
One more play. I just like a guy you brought up early in the season. I like Pat Fryermuth.
Yes, sir.
I think he's a pretty good target for Justin Fields, who's going to be starting again. 4 targets each of the 2 games this season. His snap share was a little lower week 2, which, I don't really understand that, but regardless, still got his 4 targets, and he's caught every ball that's been thrown at him. So super efficient. You can go 2 ways. The Chargers are giving up the 4th most receptions to opposing tight ends and the 12th most receiving yards to opposing tight ends. So I'll let you pick if you want to play his receptions at 2.5 at -120, or if you want to play his receiving yards at 24.5. What do you like better?
I'm taking the receptions. Like I said earlier in the season, not only, like you just mentioned, does Justin Fields like to go to the tight end? I mean, that's Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator. That's the name of his game. His 3 seasons in Atlanta, they led the league in tight end targets. So that's a big part of his offensive playbook. So I love this spot for Fryermuth. That list that I talked about on what the teams to target for wide receiver receptions. There were 4 teams to target for tight end receptions based on matchups from my list here. It was Vegas, San Francisco, Miami, and Pittsburgh. So this was one of the 4 best matchups of the week for tight ends receptions. Love him at 3 receptions here.
Yeah. And Brock Bowers just put up 6 receptions on a line of 3.5 last week. So the fact that you can get this for -120. Let's see, any other books? Fanatics has already moved up to 3.5. But yeah, FanDuel -125, DraftKings -125, BetMGM -120. Grab this because this is going to move up. I guarantee you by Sunday this will be -140, -150. So I like this one. All right. Anything else in this game?
That's it.
Let's move to the afternoon. Detroit at Arizona, perhaps the most exciting game of the week. Yes. Arizona's getting 3 points at home. Total is 51.5 points.
Yes, sir. I have so many plays from this game.
Well, I'll just say Detroit is the number 1 team to attack for wide receivers.
Yes. Sir.
So I think that's going to be part of your play. And quite honestly, on the flip side, Arizona's not that much better. They're number 8 for receptions for opposing wide receivers, number 10 overall for receiving yards. So both these teams, as evidenced by the total, give up a lot of receiving yards. So where do you want to start?
Let's start there. Wide receivers against Detroit, like you said, like every single metric, most targets, most catchable targets, most receptions, most receiving yards. You think we're safe going back to Marvin Harrison here, or we're paying his line inflated because of it's crazy how it's gone up. It was, dude, when I first wrote this down, doing my research, his line was at 57.5. Look at it, up to 60. It was 57.5 in DraftKings, up to 61.5.
64.5 on FanDuel.
Day and a half later. I think it's probably still good there. Godwin had 117 yards. Cooper Kupp 110 yards. I think they found their connection last week. I think they go back to it again here. Was this a play you were on too?
60 of those yards came on 1 catch. So just keep that in mind, right? Mm-hmm. But even if you back out that long reception, which is kind of Marvin Harrison's game, still ended with 70 yards. So I like that one. I feel I don't love playing plays where we don't have a lot of data to go off of, especially when we have 2 data points, one of which was a terrible game against a good Buffalo secondary, and the second was a monster game. So it's like, how do you really have full confidence? But I think you just got to play the matchup, and I think 61.5, he could just smash this. So if you're concerned about putting a full unit on 61.5, my recommendation would be to try something like 80 plus and put a half a unit on that or something like that, because I think he's got 100+ yard potential in this game.
Yeah, I love this spot for him. I think that's all we got to say about him, right?
Yeah, the question is there more value in the second and third wide receivers? You got Michael Wilson, right, at 24.5.
Yeah, I think I actually ended up looking at I know he's the tight end, but Trey McBride, he has not had fewer than 6 targets in 11 straight games with Kyler Murray at quarterback. 6 targets in 11 straight games. He's had 25 plus receiving yards in 14 of his last 14 games when he's had 6 targets. So I think he sees 6 targets again in this spot against Detroit. I know the matchups for tight end versus Detroit not as top of the leaderboard as they are for the wide receivers, but it's I think you can still look at that. That's beautiful.
I mean, Parkinson in week 1 had a big decent game, 47 yards. It was just that Tampa Bay did nothing against them, but that's because their wide receivers were doing all the damage, right?
Yeah. So if you look, Cade Otton actually had a good game against them at the end of last season. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see he 65 yards. So he just whatever it was, because Godwin was going nuts, right? So
yes. I like McBride. If you're going to alt him down, I'd rather alt down and take his receptions. I mean, his consistency on receptions is crazy, right?
Yeah,
like 5 receptions for you could probably get that for -200. So I think that's a really nice leg. Definitely seems to be a big part of the offense. So I do like that. I like that better than probably going to the wide receiver 2 or 3 in this game. I like going to the tight end as the second option in the receiving core.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah, there's plenty. Speaking of tight ends, is this the week that Sam Laporta comes out of hibernation and actually does something? And no, you're shaking your head. No. Why is that? What's going on with Sam Laporta here?
Sam Laporta had his second year, his rookie year, and now he's having his rookie year, his second year.
Dude, it's a great matchup. Arizona's allowed the most yards per reception to opposing tight ends, second most yards after the catch, third most yards per catchable target. He's gotta. You're just down on him this season. I feel like he's gotta break out at some point. He was so awesome last year.
He was. I'm just not willing to roll the dice until I see more consistency. I mean, listen, 44.5 receiving yards is not a lot for him, and he did do it week 1. So I think we're getting value. I don't remember what his line was the first 2 games, but it feels like we're getting some decent value on this. So I think if there is a game to play him, maybe even alt him down a little bit, but this seems like a pretty good spot. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's see line history here. He was at.
Oh yeah, we can.
He was at like 50 yards. Looks maybe even like 51. And
mid 50s there, and then he did come down last week, so we are getting a bit of a discount. Most of last year he was in the 50s as well. So I think we're getting a little bit of a value play. Maybe take him down to 40 in this game and parlay it with something else.
Yeah. I got a couple legs you could parlay it with. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is a nice leg to a builder. Receptions, 5+ receptions for him is money, but that's minus 550. So now you're talking about probably a 4-leg, 5-leg builder, something like that. But you can get him at 6 receptions is pretty good at minus 260. Look at those 11 receptions last week. Of course we were on him week 1 with that dud, and then he just exploded last in week 2. So I think you see more. He's super consistent. Look at that. He's hardly ever down at 3, and so many 7s, 8s, 9s in there.
Yeah, he's usually good for 6.
Yeah,
definitely love him at 5.
Yeah.
If you do play him at 6, that sixth one will come on the last drive of the game. I'm just telling you. Like, that's my experience. Like, I think I probably played him on this game and this game and this game. Like, and he caught them all right at the end. But he usually gets there. That's why I was very surprised week 1 where he like total dud, three receptions. But like you said, good bounce back spot. I think he's a good spot for 6 receptions here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Let's stick with the Detroit side here. You have a nice mismatch in terms of pass rush and pass block. Detroit has the 7th best pass block win rate. Arizona the 5th worst pass rush win rate. So I think this could be a nice spot for Goff. I feel like we're putting together a builder right here. Goff at 225 plus passing yards, minus 350 on FanDuel. He's done that in 18 of his last 22 games. That's since the start of last season, averaging 270 yards per game. So I think, starting something off with Goff 225 plus, St. Brown 6 plus, 5 or 5, put him at 5 plus. You could work up a nice little Lions all builder.
You could even throw McBride for 4 or 5 receptions, St. Brown for 5, Goff for 200 or 225. I think those will get you there. Like that could get you some nice plus money. So we're gonna cook that up after this. I like that.
I got another leg for you here with Jahmyr Gibbs, 3+ receptions, minus 235. He's had 6 and 7 targets in weeks 1 and 2. He's 14 of 14 when he gets 4 targets. He's 14 of his last 15 when he gets 3 targets. Kyron Williams in week 2, 4 targets, 27 yards. James Cook week 1, 3 receptions, 32 yards. The last 2 running backs to play Arizona had 3 and 4 receptions. So I think Gibbs with 3 receptions is a nice another leg to this builder we're cooking up.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on this one?
No, I think Gibbs' receiving yards also is nice. You could look there, his straight line 22.5. I just real quick, one more. I love this game so much. I think Kyler Murray's passing yard line is also really nice. 228.5. Nice matchups against Detroit all around. And he's been great at home. 13 of his last 18 home games. He's cleared this line, averaging 256 passing yards. You can. The one game he got hurt, you can factor that game out. That'll get you to that hit rate there. We were talking about how much we loved, between Harrison and who to go to. Was it Wilson or Dortch or McBride, even James Conner, maybe? But let's just go with the guy passing the ball to all of them. I think it's a good spot for him.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
This one really seems like a really safe way to put a 3 or 4 leg builder together.
Yes.
Because there's going to be offense on both sides. So
yeah.
All right, cool. Let's go to our last 4 p.m. game, Baltimore at Dallas.
Yep.
Dallas is -1 at home. Baltimore, surprisingly, 0-2 on the season. A couple tough losses, like the last minute losses. Dallas 1-1 looked like amazing and then looked like trash week 2.
Yeah.
Total in this game is 47.5, so we should see some good scoring. Let's start with Baltimore running back opportunities, because I know that's your favorite play of the day. It's actually, I think, the best play on the board.
Yeah.
Justice Hill. What do you like for Justice Hill?
I like his receiving yards, 10.5 receiving yards. It is moving up. I don't think you can get it 10.5 anymore. 11.5 on FanDuel, 11.5 DraftKings, as high as 15.5 in Fanatics. I don't know if those are correct or not, but regardless, running backs against Dallas, the most receiving yards per target, most receiving yards per reception, 7th most targets. We saw what he did week 1 against your Kansas City Chiefs. So I love the receiving yard line. He even had in a down week last week when he only had 2 targets, he still had 10 receiving yards. And now he gets this incredible matchup against the Cowboys. So And yeah, I am also with you. I think the 2 receptions is also really
Yeah,
nice.
it's a no-brainer. I
Yeah.
mean, again, it's minus 180, so you'll have to pair it with something. But that's a really good example of what I was talking about before. You play Justice Hill, 1.5 receptions, minus 180, and then you just find another play from this game or another game that's minus 400, minus 500. Pair it.
I'll give you the
Get it.
play right now.
What
CeeDee
is it?
Lamb, CeeDee Lamb, 5 receptions, minus 490.
Dude,
That's it right there.
CeeDee Lamb. Let's take a look at. I heard he's pretty good.
He is.
That guy's awesome, man.
That's the play right there from this game. 5 receptions.
Wow, he only had 4 receptions last game, I guess, because of the blowout. But
Yeah.
let's see, did he have anything in the second half? He didn't even have
Nothing.
a catch in the second half.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he was out there. They were probably so upset. Yeah, that seems like a great spot. CeeDee Lamb, I had him written down for 80 plus receiving yards. So for him to get 5 catches seems like a no-brainer. So Lamb 5 receptions, and Hill either 10 receiving yards if you can get that, or 2 receptions. I think both of those are excellent things to combine together.
Yes, sir. And just real quick, I think another leg for this, Jalen Tolbert, 2 receptions at minus 350 is real nice. Like I mentioned, this was one of the matchups. Dallas was on my list of wide receiver targets for this week against Baltimore. You can see gets to 2 quite a bit. And then I liked what he did last week. I was watching the highlights. Dak was going to him a lot. So I like
probably because CD was on the bench, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay.
That's
and it. Anything else in this one?
Finish up with your Chiefs.
Yeah, just one other play in
this.
this one. I think Derrick Henry's in a good spot for 65.5 rushing yards as well. I was looking at his receptions as well, but that's just not his game.
No.
But rushing yards, he's put up 46 in the first week against KC, but 84 last week. And if you look at, Alvin Kamara, we just talked about him, 115 rushing yards against Dallas. I think Derrick Henry will get there too. So that is another play you can go with.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's wrap it up. Sunday night game, game of the week, as I always say for the Chiefs game. Chiefs are somehow 2-0 after sneaking past both of their games. Atlanta's 1-1. Atlanta's getting 3 at home. Total is 46.5. I actually don't have any plays. I have one thing written down, which is just atrocious. But then you can go with this one.
I don't have a ton either. It is a great matchup. Like Atlanta's pass defense is terrible. They have the worst pass rush win rate in the league so far this season. KC pretty good, 9th best pass block win rate. So I feel like Mahomes is going to do something here. I don't know. I think Rice is the guy to go to. His line seems a little bit high. He has been pretty awesome.
75.5.
Yeah. Wow. But just I went back and did a little bit of digging in him. Since week 12 last season against Vegas, his targets have just like shot up dramatically. From week 12 last season till week 2 of this season, 8.7 targets per game, 6.8 receptions per game. Whereas if you look at from week 1 to week 11 last season, he was averaging 4.6 targets per game, 3.6 receptions per game.
He was a rookie. He had to earn his stripes.
Yeah. So
and his look at his snap share, right? He was in the 40s and then he jumped up to 70 plus every game. So
and if you look at what the wide receiver ones have done against Atlanta, Devonta Smith, 7 receptions on 10 targets for 76 yards. George Pickens, 6 receptions on 7 targets for 85 yards. Yeah. So I think this is a good spot for him. I love him at 5 receptions. He's done that in 13 straight games with 6 targets. So I think that's a great piece. And then I think his receiving yards, 50 and 60 receiving yards as a leg to a builder, when he has 6+ targets, which I think he sees in this game, he's got nice hit rates on 50 and 60 receiving yards. Don't look at the first half there.
Yeah, we'll just look at the last 10 games. Yeah.
So I
don't have to convince me. I always like his receptions because he is not a deep ball guy. So he catches a lot. If you look on the route tree on the Props.Cash app, you can see he catches a lot of short yardage things. So I always like playing Rice's receptions. So I would be a huge advocate. Look at that over the last 10 games. Huge advocate of him for 5 receptions in this game and pair it with something else.
Yeah, I love that. I think I tried to write it down. I don't think those, at least on FanDuel, they weren't out yet. The alt receptions. Yeah, they're still not. So
they know.
I think it's just that's the night game. So that's all I had.
Here's something you could pair it with.
Don't do it.
I can't play Kyle Pitts receiving yards. He just doesn't get there. But
great matchup though.
KC is giving up the number 1 receiving yards to opposing tight ends, the number 1 receptions to opposing tight ends. If you look, Gesicki, Isaiah Likely, they're just tearing the team apart. And I don't think it's a function of KC not being able to defend those positions. I just think they're like giving up the short yardage passes and keeping the long ball guys like Jamar Chase in check. And I think they'll do that again here. I think they'll probably focus on Drake London and they'll continue to give up passes to Kyle Pitts. But I think when you look at consistency, Pitts gets the catches. He doesn't really get the yards. So if you're going to play Pitts, I think you could take like Rashee Rice for 5 receptions and Kyle Pitts for 3 receptions, something like that. But again, it is probably the least play that I like on everything we just talked about. So it's a terrible way to end the pod. But Kyle Pitts, if you're just purely focused on matchups, this would be
like you said yesterday. If it was any other tight end, it'd be all over this. But the fact that it's Kyle Pitts,
go play Xavier Worthy for 2 receptions instead. He'll get those too.
There you go.
So anyway, we'll have more for this game in the Discord. Like Tom said, they don't have all the lines out for it yet, so we don't have all of our data available to us. But we'll get some more stuff in the Discord. Sign up, code POD on Dub Club, and you can go
off.
50% off and get access to all of our plays. Tom and I, right after the pod, we end up talking through the picks, and we choose our favorites, and we put a VIP picks list out there and add a few more that we didn't even talk about on the pod. So you get access to that. You get access to all of our builders. You get access to all the other contributors like Tim and the rest of the team in the Discord. So come join us.
Very nice. All right. Nice work. Got through a lot today. Get those builders assembled, get them locked in, because as you see, the lines move. They're moving quite a bit. So get that closing line value locked in, and let's all make some money.
Let's do it.